My name is Anne-Mer Slebodnick, and I have been a disciple for 32 years. I'm married to a wonderful man named Gary Slebodnick, and we have been married for over 26 years. We are blessed with 3 sons in their early 20s. They are currently living at home during the pandemic, so we have a full house right now. My husband and I are also both caregivers to our parents who are in their 80s. My parents are local, while Gary's mother lives out of state. I'm also by profession a registered nurse. I work as a nurse case manager in one of the aging service access points in Massachusetts. I will be sharing some caregiving resources that I hope would be helpful for you that I have picked up at work, and also basically being a caregiver myself. So some tips to hopefully be more helpful to you. Now, each of us is in a different stage in our caregiving journey. You're not alone, whatever stage you're in. So let's get started. How do you get started? Well, it's helpful to know how your elderly family member or friend wants to live their life when they're not able to care for themselves. Do they want to live at home? Do they want to go to a nursing home or a skilled nursing facility? Knowing this can help determine their quality of life before they reach their end of life. It's really important not to leave out the elder in the planning process. If they have cognitive issues, still try to include them as much as they can handle. While researching caregiver resources, I ran across the National Institute on Aging, NIH.gov, and they have frequently asked questions about caregiving. So one of the questions was, I'm new to caregiving. Where do I start? How do I organize and get everything in order? Well, for starters, I also ran across the AARP. It's an interest group focusing on issues affecting those over the age of 50. And they came up with a workbook for caregivers in English, Spanish, and Chinese. They even have a workbook for Asian Americans, military, and LGBT. It walks you through how to start a conversation with your loved one, how to form a team of caregivers, how to make a plan, find support, and care for yourself. How can I find caregiving resources in my area? Well, there's the Elder Locator, 1-800-677-1116. There's also the National Institute on Aging website and the Family Care Navigator. As I mentioned before, I work for one of the 26 aging service access points in Massachusetts. So ASAPs provide the following direct and protective services. Well, there's their information referral. Maybe you're interested in having your elder attend an adult day health. And what is that? That's a program where an elder can go to this day health program where he or she could be surrounded by other elders. They have a lot of programs that they can participate in, a lot of socialization. They can have their lunch there. Usually there's a nurse that's on site to monitor the elders and see how they're doing. And it's just a lot of fun. They have many of them in Massachusetts, but during the pandemic, since they cannot meet face to face yet, hopefully they'll open up because it's really important for them for socialization. They actually have virtual check-ins with the elders too, and phone calls to the elders just to make sure that they're not feeling lonely. The ASAPs also do nursing home screen if there's an elder in the community that just cannot make it, safe at home anymore. We screen for nursing home. We provide interdisciplinary case conference and case management between RNs and care advisors and the family, just to figure out ways to keep the elders safe and figure out what they need. We develop service plans. Does the elder need some home delivered meals? Do they need some laundry service, grocery service, especially during the pandemic? How do they have access to food? Light homemaking, heavy chore. Sometimes there's a lot of clutter that needs to be cleaned up. Some might be hoarders that might need some specialized help, like heavy chore. And some of them might not feel safe being able to do personal care, like take a shower or bathe, and they need an attendant to be there to help supervise or help, help bathe them, and also help them with their other activities of daily living. Um, there's also medical escort service, transportation help that can be provided. And we also do investigation of abuse and neglect of elders. If you feel like there's some self-neglect going on, or some, other kind of abuse that that you might be wondering about, there, we have protective services in the ASAPs. We also have caregiver specialists that can, refer you to other resources that you might need for your elder. And the caregiver specialist can actually, if you as the caregiver live in Massachusetts and you have a loved one that lives out of state, the caregiver specialist can even help you research like resources that you can use for the elder who lives out of state. Another resource to check out is the Council on Aging. They have a lot of programs and a lot of information like elder law, a lot of programs that have gone virtual, like disease self-management, there's matter of balance, there's the diabetes self-care management, Tai Chi, um, many different programs, and they have other resources. You can ask them for other resources. Sometimes people donate durable medical equipment over there, like wheelchairs, modes, walkers. um, and also, another question that I found in NIH is, can I get paid to take care of a family member? Some caregivers have to take leave from work, or leave work to take care full time of their loved ones. And it's not a lot of money, but there is the in Massachusetts, there's a consumer directed care that's accessed through an ASAP. You have to go through an ASAP if they don't have Mass Health. And then another program, if they have Mass Health, there's the PCA program that you have to access through Mass Health, Mass Health designated agency, as well as the AFC program that you can access through a Mass Health designated agency. So we'll put together a resource list. So please don't worry if you're not getting all of these information. It's a lot. Now ask yourself, safety first. How do I make the older person's home safer? I usually recommend an occupational therapy evaluation of the home so they can recommend the assisted device that they can use, whether they need grab bars, they need bed benches, do they need a walker, a cane, do they need a ramp, how to do it. So they are, that's a recommendation. You can ask their primary care doctor if that's something that they can order. And talking with the doctor, that's an important thing too. Make sure you get a written permission that you can speak to the doctor and that the doctor can talk to you. So there's that open communication. If you have any concerns about the elder or the family member, and think about signing up for a patient gateway so you can email and communicate to the doctor any concerns that you might have. And during the pandemic, a lot of the elders have not been going to their doctor for the visits because they're afraid of catching COVID. And a lot of the doctor's appointments have been through the phone. If you can teach the elder how to do Zoom or FaceTime, that would really be helpful. And also, if you can make sure they have a thermometer, blood pressure cuff, if they can, take their temperature, their vital signs, even weigh themselves, those are information that you can provide the doctor who can't see them face to face. And it's something objective just to see, are they losing weight? How are they doing? If they're falling, that's something definitely to let the doctor know about. If they wind up going to the ER, let the primary know what's going on. So, I've said a lot, there's a lot going on, but it's doable. Take a deep breath, know that you're not alone and God's with you. And thank you for letting me share. I hope this has been helpful to you.
Welcome to the Caregivers Conference. My name is Maureen McCartney, and I am here to share a bit about myself in caregiving and my role as a hospice nurse. let me begin at the beginning. In January 21st, 1981, I made Jesus Lord of my life, was baptized, and had my sins forgiven. At that time, I actually met my husband, who placed membership in the Boston church at the same time. We were married in 1983, and I got a undergraduate degree in psychology in 1984. I discovered I was pregnant, had my children, and raised them, and they are now 31 in April to 36 years old. So why ask me to speak on caregiving? Reflecting over my life, I've been a caregiver all of my life. At the age of 10, my mother had what they called then, and probably still call now, a nervous breakdown. She was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic with bipolar disease and suicidal ideation. Needless to say, as the oldest of 4 children and an alcoholic father, I then became the caregiver for the family. More on that later. Basically, when my children were finishing school, my daughter was in her last year of school, I was faced with the empty nest, and I wanted more for the last 20 years of my life. I was 49 years old at the time, and I felt like I had more to give. So I returned to nursing school and became a registered nurse in 2012 at the age of 54. At that time, I tried several different nursing hats on, and I was not pleased with the things that I was doing. I was just unable to give the care that I felt was necessary to people that were suffering. My neighbor, Rosemary Pascal, who knew me very well, said she thought I should really consider hospice nursing, which is something I had never considered in the past. She knew me really well, so I took her word and took her referral and went to the VNA hospice care and spoke with my lovely manager, Lori Roth, and she hired me at that time. And I started working there almost 9 years ago now. I have since become an end-of-life education consortium certified nurse, which is a highly regarded degree in end-of-life care, and also a certified wound specialist. Over the last 8.5 years, I've supported over 500 families as they have cared for their loved ones to the end of their lives. So what exactly is hospice? The word actually means hospitality or a place of rest. And unfortunately, hospice now has this really negative stereotype of causing the end of life to people. And that could not be further from the truth. Dame Cecilia Saunders founded the first hospice in 1964 in London. And she saw the suffering of people with catastrophic diagnoses. They were put into the back corners of nursing homes and hospitals and allowed to suffer with pain, delusions, hallucinations, anxiety, and wounds that were uncared for because they were dying and they ceased being a priority to the doctors and the nurses. In hospice, we now have the focus on comfort with those with a catastrophic diagnosis. The first hospice in the United States was actually in 1972. And our goal is quality of life for the amount of life that you have left. So the plan is to try our best to keep you as safe, as comfortable, as pain-free, and having your wounds cared for. In order for someone to go on hospice, they have to decide that they do not seek curative treatment any longer. That does not mean that if you have a tumor that needs to be debulked, that we won't debulk it. We will remove, we will remove the pressure. But you're no longer on chemotherapy trying to get better, for example. 2 doctors have got to certify that they believe that it's a hospice referral is appropriate. Usually within the last 6 months of life. However, once on hospice care, I've had patients live over 2 years, and I've had many graduate once the crisis is over and we're giving them the appropriate care and medications and symptom management, we have seen a number of people that go on to live a longer life. You can come on and go off of hospice if you want to. You can still go to the hospital if you want to. Most people prefer to be at home in their own home. Palliative care is when you are still seeking curative treatment, but you want your symptoms palliated, even if you know that it's probably end of life, you're probably not going to get better. Palliative care is making sure that you stay comfortable, but the end is not necessarily in sight. Hospice care, we realize that the end is in sight, and we're trying our best to give you the best quality of life. Your hospice nurse will come to your home or where you live, if you live with family. Some people live in a nursing home, some people live in or move to a hospice house. And that's not in every state, but in Massachusetts, we do have hospice houses. We will come about once a week for starters to figure out what your needs are. And we'll increase the frequency up to every day if needed. But a hospice nurse or aide does not move in with you and take care of your loved one. That portion of the care is called custodial care, and that remains the responsibility of the family. So, for example, if someone needs to be changed, then you need to change them. If someone needs to be fed, you need to feed them, that kind of thing. But the nurse will help you and teach you and train you what's appropriate and how to do that. The nurse will also monitor for signs and symptoms of infections. Oftentimes, I have caught things like urinary tract infections, pneumonias, pressure ulcers, and other reversible conditions that will keep somebody comfortable so that they're not in discomfort, pain, or feeling urgency or any other uncomfortable things while they're being cared for. Nurse can also make a lot of safety recommendations. For example, small rugs around the house are dangerous and things like that. We also will recommend equipment that is provided to you free of your cost in the home. We call it durable medical equipment, DME. Oxygen, even if it's only for comfort, it does not mean that you have COPD or a heart condition or low oxygen saturation. It can be just because it makes you feel better, and it often does. A home care bed, it's it's adjustable, and it's waterproof so that if there's an accident, it doesn't ruin your mattress at home. It also is easier to walk around somebody in a twin size hospital bed, raise them up so that you're not hurting your back when you're caring for somebody. A commode or a portable toilet is very helpful. You put it right next to the bed. They don't have to walk to the bathroom. Sometimes if they can only pivot, they can still remain continent, which is an area of extreme importance to a lot of people and a point of dignity to a lot of people. A shower chair, over the bed table, walkers, canes, wheelchairs, all those kinds of things are provided through hospice at no additional cost to you. So, your nurse is not able to make decisions. She is there to support you, and she also seeks the consultation of your primary care doctor who stays involved in your care. The medical director of the hospice is also a new doctor that you get that is an expert in these kinds of care choices. They're experts in wounds, they're experts in comfort, they're experts in titrating medications. What hospice is not a way to die sooner. We can't give you medication to end your life, not in Massachusetts. And personally, for myself personally, I just couldn't do that. It would be against my moral code. But I can titrate your medications to control your pain and your comfort. People that are taking so many medications, it often makes them nauseous. So one of the first things we usually do is eliminate things that are not necessary. For example, you might be on a bunch of vitamins, and nothing can make you more nauseous than a B vitamin. and or you might be on statins. Well, they have a lot of side effects, and they are really for future health. And so there's a lot of medications that your doctor or the hospice doctor will recommend discontinuing. Usually people, when they discontinue these medications, find that their appetite is actually a little bit better. Any medications that are directly related to your diagnosis is covered by hospice. So you will no longer have to buy it. For example, if you are in kidney failure from diabetes, your diabetes medication will be covered, that kind of thing. But if you are dying from cancer, but a diabetic, then your regular insurance will still continue to cover the diabetic medication. So it all depends on what exactly your diagnosis is. Any medications provided by us are delivered directly to your home by a courier or FedEx. It depends on the situation, or we can do a local fill. Again, we have very, very careful, excuse me, careful with medications. A lot of people are very concerned about morphine or other opioid medications. These medications I use very cautiously and wisely to control pain. And they are, we start low, we go slow, we slowly build up to the right medication to control your pain and give you the balance of alertness and pain control. They are not given to you to end your life, and that is very carefully monitored. We only give a small amount of medication at a time, 2 weeks, and we work with the family to fill pill boxes and things like that to make sure that these medications are carefully monitored and dispensed. Your body, as you're dying, it's a very natural process to die. Actually, ironically, it's a lot like birth. When you are young and you get pregnant, you get a diagnosis of being pregnant. And when you are old and your body's getting ready to end this life, which it does for 100% of the population still, then you get a diagnosis. And usually you have anywhere from 6 months to a year, normally, sometimes less, sometimes a lot more. But just like when you find out you're pregnant, you find out that you're ill. Time passes, the baby grows, and time passes, and your signs and symptoms of your disease increase. At some point, you start having Braxton Hicks when you're pregnant. And at some point, you start having real signs and symptoms of the illness, maybe some shortness of breath, maybe some pain, maybe headaches, maybe stiffness, whatever it might be. Anxiety is a big one. Agitation is a big one, delusions. So once you start having those kinds of symptoms, that's a good time to call hospice if you're no longer seeking treatment. At that point, you'll go through a period of time and we'll manage your symptoms. We call it palliative care. And at that point, or we can actually go into hospice at that point. Then, just as in labor, you go through a transition period. You're having irregular contractions, things are moving along. We also call transitioning the point in illness when you are starting to have some of these signs and symptoms more severe than you've had up till now. Then you reach a point of actively dying. Actively giving birth means that you are now getting ready to push that baby out. And actively dying means that your body is really shutting down and getting ready to no longer function. And then you give birth, just as then you die. I think it's very interesting that God's made this very similar in the process. Hospice, first and foremost, supports the primary caregiver. They are specially trained nurses, like myself. I also work very, very closely with my social workers. Enough can't be said about them. They are able to access VA benefits for veterans. They're able to help you to find aides if you're not able to do the full-time physical care for your loved one. And you have chaplains that are great for end-of-life review, regardless of what your religious persuasions are. They support all religious persuasions and even atheism. They really are for life review and for setting your heart and your mind at peace. And they do an excellent job with that. And then, of course, you get a medical director who is in charge of me and all of the other pieces of this team. And we meet with the medical director every 2 weeks and make sure that everything's on track. We have any of our questions answered, but I have her on speed dial. I can pick her up and call her anytime for any reason. If I have a question about medication or a wound or anything else that I'm concerned about. As a goal, as a nurse, my goal is to help the caregiver care for themselves first so that they can then care for their loved one. Just like on an airplane, when those masks drop down, you put yours on first, then you put it on the other person. Same thing with caregiving for a critically ill person. You have to take care of yourself. And the way you do that is really up to you. Whatever feeds your soul is what you need to do. Whatever fills up your tank emotionally. It's different for everyone. An extrovert like myself, I need to get with people without getting, I don't care if they're 10 feet apart. I need to see somebody. And I need to keep in touch with my friends and family. I'm an extrovert, and that is what feeds my soul and leaves me feeling energized. Introverts, however, need to find peace and quiet. They need to get away from the house. They need to get a break from the constant care. It's really, really important to support both your introvert and extrovert friends in their caregiving needs. Everybody needs human connection outside of the care of an ill loved one. That is exhausting and very emotionally fatiguing. Even if the person has a full-time aide, they are still fatigued in the constant care that they need to give emotionally. Some people will exercise, some will meditate, some will read, have lunch with friends or journal, but everyone needs an outlet to themselves emotionally. I love the scripture in 2 Corinthians 1, verses 3 and 4. It says, "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in times of trouble, so we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God. But just as the sufferings of Christ flow over into our lives, so also through Christ, our comfort overflows." I love that scripture. I feel like it really speaks to me as a hospice nurse. So to circle back to my family, with my mother, Mom got the professional help she needed, and she stayed on her medications to manage her mental illness for the most part, and she lived to be 85. She raised us to be very compassionate and to love one another, and she passed in November of 2018 with all of her children and many of her grandchildren able to say goodbye to her. Mom had reconciled with her estranged siblings. Her brother that she hadn't seen in 20 years came over, and they hugged, and she forgave him for some past things that had happened, and she called her sister Anne, and they had a long conversation, and they cried, and she was able to reconcile with them. I think that at that time we had hospice, not me. I had to pull in a hospice nurse and another agency because I didn't feel comfortable having, of course, my own mother as a patient or at my agency. And she passed very comfortably at home where she desired to be, in her own bed. And it was a hospital bed, but in her bed, she owned it. And now my siblings and I are very close. And I think that's the only thing that mother wanted, was for us to be close to each other. We get away frequently for meals and spend a night away from time to time. I know that she is smiling down at us. I have a couple of things that I'd like to reference. One is called When the Time Comes, and I'll just hold this up. Hopefully, I don't know if you can get a screenshot of that or not. Oh, it's kind of upside down and backwards. I could send this out. Basically, it gives you a review of the signs and symptoms of approaching death. So it's very, very helpful. This particular little booklet's called When the Time Comes. That is very helpful for a lot of people. It breaks down all the different signs and symptoms for the end of life. And something that I recommend for everybody is something you can just get off the internet. It's called 5 Wishes. I don't know how to screenshot it or whatever, put up there, but it is recognized in Massachusetts, and it is what you wish for the person you want to make care decisions for me when I can't, the kind of medical treatment you do want and don't want, how comfortable you want to be, what I want people, how I want people to treat me, and what I want my loved ones to know. It's a very simple, inexpensive little booklet that you can get off the internet, and or most hospitals, nursing homes, and hospices have them. But it just gives you the opportunity to start the conversation with your parents, your friends, your loved ones, or your spouse. And I hope that this is helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patrice Gattozzi, and I work at Ethos. Ethos is one of 3 ASAPs in the city of Boston. The other 2 are Boston Senior Home Care and Central Boston Elder Services. Unlike everybody else on this panel, I am not a medical professional. My job is just to bring fun and activities and events to the seniors. I work in the Community Relations Department for the Age Well and Nutrition teams. Our goal at Ethos is to encourage seniors to live in their homes as long as possible and to lead healthy and meaningful lives. We know that those who engage in meaningful activities tend to live longer and have a sense of purpose, are happier, and function better physically and mentally. We offer evidence-based healthy aging classes and workshops for free. We teach participants the skills and confidence to manage their own health and either prevent or delay chronic conditions. Most importantly, our programs and activities provide opportunities for seniors to stay socially connected and physically active. Research has linked social isolation and loneliness as the cause to higher risk of physical and mental conditions such as anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and even death. And that is a scary list, right? So consequently, social activities and exercising together is just as important as medicine. And it's fun, and you get to meet new people. COVID-19 has certainly brought to light the harmful effects of loneliness and isolation for all of us, let alone a senior who's at higher risk. For some seniors, talking to the cashier on doing their daily errands is the only conversation they have in a day. And so last year, many lost that as well. COVID-19 is not the only risk for loneliness. The unexpected death of a partner, the moving away of friends, children, the loss of mobility, not doing the things you could do before, and even retirement puts each of us at a higher risk for loneliness. Dr. Stephanie Capicio says, as a social service species, Dr. Stephanie Capicio says, as a social species, we are accountable to help our lonely children, parents, neighbors, and even strangers in the same way we would treat ourselves. Treating loneliness is our collective responsibility. You may be thinking to yourself, my spouse and I are still young and strong. We don't need those services. Those are for old people. Or maybe your income threshold is above the median and you don't think you can get those services. Don't let that stop you from getting involved in programs and activities. Let me encourage you to not wait for a crisis to get plugged in. You never know when you may need help and support. It's sooner than you think. So these agencies are a funnel of information, and they have access to new information as they come online all the time. For example, this past month, Ethos partnered with Boston Medical Center as they set up neighborhood vaccination sites. We were able to fill all the slots within one day for each neighborhood just because of our mailing list and our network, while others waited on the state website for hours. So how do you get started? Start local. If you live in the city of Boston, the easiest thing to do is call the City of Boston's hotline, which is 311, it's easy, and ask for the Age Strong Commission. Just an FYI, a few years ago, they rebranded the Elderly Commission to the Age Strong Commission, which I think is a great thing because don't we all want to age strong? It sounds better, right? So get on their mailing list for their monthly magazine called Seniority, and then ask for the Boston Elder Info, and they will triage you for the right ASAP. For those living outside of Boston, contact the Mass Council on Aging, the MCOA, and find your local COA. If you don't see your town listed, go to your town's website and look for your senior center. Nationally, the NIA website, the National Institute on Aging, is filled with up-to-date studies and research. As well, all the evidence-based classes and programs that we teach, like falls prevention, can be found in every state too. All these sites have plenty of resources, and the staff can direct you to more if you need it. So in closing, for those of you who care for others, just know that your love and support, no matter how big or small, is a tangible healing balm. Thanks for being with us today.
When is the time to call hospice for my loved one?
Well, basically a hospice diagnosis is needed. It needs to be a critical illness. And at that point, your doctor is the one that would make the referral, or you can call a hospice agency directly and the agency can contact the doctor. You need 2 medical doctors to say that somebody qualifies for hospice, that they are at that end of life. But you can do that as soon as you start seeing any of the multiple hospitalizations, falling, unbalanced walking. It's time to get at least get an evaluation, and they can point you to the right direction. And it's free to you to have someone come out and do that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
All right. Move on to our next question. How can I start the conversation about end-of-life care?
Does someone else want to get that, or I'd be glad to answer that. I think that the recommendation that I made to use the 5 wishes, which is right here, that you can get online, even if you just go on their website, they do have conversations. A lot of times you'll start to see piles of bills that are not getting paid. You'll start seeing that their refrigerator is empty or food is rotting in the refrigerator. You're going to start seeing signs and symptoms that they're no longer able to care for themselves. When that happens, that's the time to get an evaluation. It costs nothing to call your local hospice agency. I'm with V&A Care, but there's great agencies out there, no matter where you live, and have someone come in and have a conversation with you and your parent or your loved one. It is always difficult, but the nurses are experts that come out, and they're going to be wise, and they're going to be kind, and they're going to help you determine what needs you have. Okay.
Anything else like to?
Okay.
Okay, move on to our next question. I feel like I'm giving up hope if I call hospice, but I know they are getting worse. How can I bring this up to my loved one without upsetting everyone?
I think that it's good to avoid the word hospice initially, to just talk about them needing more help and more care in the home, to have the conversation that says, you know, everybody's going to die. Nobody gets out of this life alive. So I want you to have a safe and happy and long life. And I think that some of the resources that Patrice and Anne-Mer talked about, you know, aging strong is a good place to begin. You know, what do they need so that they can stay at home? And what you're seeing, I think honesty is the best policy, but the word hospice itself, as I said in the beginning of my lesson, is a very scary word. People have said to me, doesn't that mean they're going to come and hang the morphine drip and kill me? And it's like, no, it can't be further from the truth. I have people come on hospice in the middle of a crisis and come off hospice, and they graduate. We have a little celebration, bring them flowers, you're graduating. This is a beautiful thing. You're going to be with us for a while. And but in the middle of a crisis, if you don't get somebody involved, they could die more quickly. They could have a fall, or something could happen. So we try and help people have the best quality of life for the amount of life that they have left.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. You
You
guys,
know, I would like to just add, so when you talked about not being able to do your bills, like at Ethos, we have Boston Money Management, and so they can come in and help you do all those things. So maybe you're not getting to that point where everything is falling apart. So you can gradually put services into place, especially if
Right.
you're not living in the same state or city. It really does help to know that somebody's coming into your parents' house and they're taking care of their bills for them, something like that. So you're getting other people into the home at different times, and then you'll gradually know when it's time, when things are getting more serious, I think.
Mhm.
I just wanted to add something about that. When Maureen said like, there's no food in the fridge,
Mhm.
first, if you have a good conversation with the elder and see, just where they're at mentation wise, are they confused? Are they with it? Are they alert and oriented? Depending on the age, because it's not necessarily end of life already at that point. It could be because they have some underlying disease that's going on.
Mhm.
Oddly, for the elderly, it's like you wonder, it's like, okay, this is this yeah, that gets them confused. When you see there's no food in the fridge and you see a pile of unpaid bills, or you might want to do that safety inspection of the house and see, it's not the cleanness. You also want to think about, okay, is this person potentially have some hoarding issues? So
Right.
that's something separate. But if it's not that and there's no food in the fridge and you look at, the person, are they clean? Are they bathed? It's like, how does the place smell?
Right.
You can think about, okay, is this self-neglect? And that's where protective services can come in also.
Right.
And just like be screened, it's not like, oh my goodness, I'm tattletaling on this person doing something bad. No, it's actually trying to see. Protective service is a service to make sure that the individual is protected.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, anyway.
So even with our organization, when we're doing activities and things with some of the seniors, we begin to realize they're declining. And so
Right.
then we can start to say, hey, call another part of our agency and say, hey, look at their case manager and talk to them about different issues, because we can see that visibly. And I think, and that does happen. They come more unkempt and things like that. So you need
Mhm.
to help them. So again, any way you can get people involved
Mm-hmm.
in
Mhm.
in a community, then you're helping them overall with their life and their life
Right.
quality of life.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
all right, thank you. Um, how can I talk to an older person's doctor? What are some of your
Mhm.
experiences with that?
Many older adults find it hard to bring a family member or friend with them to the doctor's office. But if they do, it's really important to get a formal permission from your relative, so that they're allowing you to speak to their healthcare provider.
Mhm.
And it, it's important to, once you talk with the elderly person, make a list of what you're going to talk about. Because, I mean, I do this with my parents. My sister does it with the parents, and they might have sensory issues too. So like there's a conversation between the doctor and them, and they're not completely hearing it, what's going on, or they forget what's going on. So you can prepare them and say, okay, we're going to talk to the doctor about this that we're concerned about, right? Write down the concerns and share them with the doctor. And while you're at the visit with the doctor, let them talk and take notes for them. And I usually also recommend that at the end of the visit that the doctor print out a summary of the visit so that you can review it later on. And it will usually have a list of medications there that you can double
Mhm.
check to, and you often find about that. But if you can get that dialogue with the doctor and you and yourself for your loved ones, it's really going to be a great teamwork, because you can call the doctor and like, my mother fell. I'm concerned about her. Well, is she on blood thinners? So you should be seen, because she might have a bleed going on there, just to check. And also, if they keep falling and everything's okay, maybe the doctor can order some visiting nursing, some PT, OT in the home, some safety inspection, or there could be other disease processes. So that talking to first the elder to get that permission will open the door for you to talk to the doctor.
Mhm.
And that's really important.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I didn't get to mention this, but I also was a caregiver for my mom for 10 years. And I was like Sam. I had young children and I was working and I was taking care of my mother, and it was a lot on my plate. And so my emotions were all over the place. And it wasn't until after she passed that I even went to Ethos. And I took a class on powerful tools for caregiving, and there's some other classes on caregiving, which is so important to have that outlet and that support. And I think Maureen
Mhm.
talked about that. And I really do think that if you are caregiving for somebody, do not neglect yourself. Get the support, get into support. There are support groups for different medical issues. We even have a memory cafe for people that are taking care of their loved one who's living with dementia. And they can come and they can have their uh, caregiver, their loved one entertained for a while, and they have services, and we have lots of brochures and things for them to learn. So I do think that you need the help. Because, again, like she said, you got to put the mask on first. And so don't neglect yourself. And there are resources out there for you as well as your parents or your loved one. So
Mm-hmm.
All right. Um, how can I find caregiving resources in my area if my loved ones live out of state?
You know, this is so if you're in Massachusetts, okay, because I think the two nurses here in Patrice were from Massachusetts. So what I found out is if you contact your aging service access point, those ASAPs, even though you live in Massachusetts and your parent or loved one lives in California, Florida, or whatnot, the caregiver specialists in the ASAPs, and they have caregiver specialists there that can point you to the right, they can help research resources that you might need out of state. So that's actually good news. So you're not alone in that way. And you can contact the local council on aging also in the different states, and they have different programs there that you can access and get some advice from.
Mhm.
Great. Anybody else? Okay. Um, are there some support groups for the caregiver?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, I have experience. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, actually, to what Patrice had mentioned, if your loved one has a specific disease, like Alzheimer's is big, alz.org, the Alzheimer's, website. They have a lot of training. They have a lot of support groups there, which you all are experiencing the same thing together, and you can get tips. And also you can network and see, okay, this other resources available for your loved ones and so forth. The same thing with Parkinson's. And actually, Jeannie was mentioning like the MSA, what Wyndham passed away from. They have a support group. It's kind of like their lifeline, because sometimes you feel like people can't really relate to what you're going through. So if you go specifically for those, specific diseases, illnesses that's really affecting your loved ones, you can kind of get into the same page. And also don't forget, we're Christians. We have our, brothers and sisters that are more mature than us, that can help guide us, and they might know other people too.
Thank you. I just want to let you all know that we're coming up on our 5-minute warning. Or doesn't sound good, does it? 5 minutes to the end of the session. Let's see. This question. I'm overwhelmed and exhausted. How can I get a break from caregiving?
Well, I know that if somebody's on hospice, oops, am I muted? No. Okay. If someone's on hospice, we do offer respite, which is a 5-day stay outside of your home in a skilled nursing facility. And right now with COVID, it's become an issue because all the quarantining, all that stuff that's going on, but that should be coming back online. Also, just having professional paid aides come into the home on a regular basis, letting friends and family know that you need a break. Could someone come over and just stay in the house while you go take a walk once or twice a week, or go meet somebody for lunch or a cup of coffee even, just to get out of the house. Everybody needs a break, and nobody can do it alone. It is just like a new mother needs an occasional meal, brought to her house or whatever. It does help tremendously to have some support but you have to ask for it. A lot of people will assume, especially in New England, that you're all set unless you offer or ask and offer to help in some way. So.
And I would really encourage try to get as many services as possible. I was doing a lot of laundry and things like for my mom, and those services can be provided. And so it would have been better for me to spend more time with her just playing Scrabble and hanging out and having fun instead not, doing the work. So do whatever you can to get as many services to help you with to bear the load.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Oh, does anyone else have anything else they'd like to?
Don't go it alone. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
It's free to you to have someone come in and evaluate your loved one, or sit down with you even and just have a conversation with you about what you're thinking and feeling, whether it's through a council on aging, ASAP, or a hospice agency or palliative care agency. Let her doctor know that there is some issues that you're concerned about. And again, what Anne-Mer said about getting permission from your loved one, get it in writing, please.
Yes.
Don't just get, and then the 5 wishes, it does have healthcare proxies. If your loved one is unable to manage, on their own, if you're the healthcare proxy, then most people will step in and let you speak with them or for them, whether you're with them on the phone, on speakerphone. The other thing is that in order for a healthcare proxy to be invoked, you also need 2 doctors to say that they're not competent. So there's a line there between competency, which they might be able to tell you, this is what I want or don't want,
and they're needing to have someone take it over, and it's never smooth, it's never cut and dried, it's not a specific this, that, or the other, it's an evaluation. So evaluations are very, very important, and your ASAP are probably some of the best people out there to help evaluate that.